Please silence all electronic devices as a courtesy of those in attendance. Thank you very much. And this is the 5:30 studies session. SS1, Kings County Elections, Voter Choice Act. Ms. Avalos.
Oh,
Or let's skip her. Let's go to Mr. Villa.
Villa.
Did I say it right?
Yes, sir. Yeah, I'll take it. Anyhow, my name is Lupe Villa. I'm the Registrar of Voters for Kings County. And just most recently, our county has transitioned what is called Voter Choice Act. It's a new election model that's going to be deployed for Kings County, starting with our next election, June 7th. And part of that is for myself to do some outreach and reach out to all cities and schools, any other interesting parties that want to hear about Voter Choice Act and have questions in regards to the new process that we're going to have. So that's the reason why you reached out to Marissa and asked if I could come to speak to you guys and share a PowerPoint with you guys. But I also want to take the opportunity to, one, introduce myself, and two, give your council an opportunity to ask me questions directly, not just related to Voter Choice Act, but any question you guys may have related to elections. So that is part of my job, is to come educate people, to make sure you guys get the information from my office and not from social media or any other source of misinformation. Before I start, I would like to give an opportunity for any questions before I continue on. Yes, sir.
Hi, my name is Frank Gornick. So recently, I had a friend of mine pass away about a year ago.
Yes, sir.
He lived in Las Vegas, and I ended up administering his estate. So I had his mail transferred to me here. And so for about the last 6-7 months, I've been getting all of his mail. And recently, I've been getting mail now from local elected officials to him, who is deceased, okay, encouraging him to vote. So my question is, this gentleman passed away in Las Vegas, transferred his mail address to my address. His mail comes to my home, and both he and I get the voter information from Kings County. So I guess my question is, how does it get on the rolls? That's one question. The other question is, how often do we canvass the rolls to see if people are?
So, good question. It's a very common question, by the way. When we have deceased voters or electors, we get.
Let me just say too, got information from both parties, Republican and Democrat, not.
Yeah. No, the inserts or information you get in regards to political parties or folks running for office candidates, we have nothing to do with that. They send the mailers themselves. We ourselves, my office, sent out one mailer about a week and a half ago. Second mailer was sent out 2 days ago. Come Friday, you're going to get your information guide, and then come Monday, your ballots will be hitting actually Friday, the ballots will drop in Bakersfield. So my assumption would be that ballots will hit the mail stream Saturday for local Kings County. So in order for him not to receive a ballot or any type of information, because you're not a relative of him, we would need a death certificate. Or what could happen is we're going to get notification by the Secretary of State's office in regards to deceased persons. So we get them from the state and we get them from our local health department if they pass within Kings County jurisdiction. And that's how we take them off the rolls. The second part of your question in regards to how often do we clean the rolls, we don't go in there and remove people without proper notification. So one thing is removing folks from the vote or polls so they won't show. Those folks are not going to get a ballot. So if someone's showing inactive, those folks are not going to get a ballot. Only active registered voters will get ballots or any type of information from my department. So we would need, in your situation, sir, we would need a death certificate to confirm his passing. And there's obvious reasons behind that.
Oh, yeah, I understand that, but I guess what's confusing to me is I stopped getting information from the political people who were running in Las Vegas. Okay.
Yeah. So,
and now I started to get them for candidates here in Kings County and statewide.
Yeah, that is very indicative because they get a forwarding address. So I'm assuming the Las Vegas mail will continue to come to yours until they're told to stop. So it's It's unusual, but not unusual because folks can go out of state, they can go out of the country and pass. And unless we get the information that they passed on, then we can't remove from the roll or the voter rolls. So they'll remain. However, I can assure you that if a ballot is received by you and you cast that vote and you return that ballot, we confirm signatures manually. We're one of the few counties that still does it with human eyes and hands. We don't use any type of electronic devices to confirm or verify signatures. We do it all manually. For example, in November 2020, we had over 44,000 ballots. Every single one of them was touched.
Every single one of them.
Every single one of those was touched and verified.
Okay.
Human eyes, no equivalent. So, I mean, I believe Marissa gave you a card. You feel free to call me tomorrow. I'll make sure my staff pays attention to that situation and we'll look into it.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions?
Now, don't the politicians get their addresses from from your office, correct?
Yeah, they can buy what is called voter files. We got different types of files that they can purchase from us. And then they use those to go out and do their campaigning or door knocking, whatever they do, any type of activity they want with it.
So I guess the question would be, how would his name, not Mr. Gornick's, the deceased person's name, who's never, I'm assuming, never voted in Kings County or in California, how would it be on your Kings County roll?
If the case that I thought he was registered voter here before he went to Vegas and then back.
No, he lived there retired there as a teacher.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, so then he shouldn't be getting any information from our office because he was never on the rolls.
So see, the only connection was transferring his address
Right,
to my address.
right. And when you
That was
were,
the-
did you get information for him directly from the elections office or from candidates?
Candidates.
Yeah, so we have no control with the candidates, but they do purchase the list from us. More likely, there was a forwarding address from Las Vegas or Nevada to California.
But how would the politicians get the address if it's not from your
It
office?
could be households. So not all politicians invest the money they could invest. They use households. We use voters. So we go individual voters, not households. For example, notification that you guys should have received by now, those are to individual voters, not per household. It's cheaper to do by household because there's only one per household. But if you got 5 people that are registered to vote or at voting age, they're going to get 5 mailers from our office. Every single voter will get. That could be the case. Without looking into it further, we can go in circles. But I do have an interest in knowing what happened behind that. Because we had them in the past, where people have deceased and
Right.
either the death was not reported to our office timely or no action was taken after the report was received. So, anything else, folks? Okay, I'll carry with the PowerPoint. If you guys have any questions there, we can either do them as we go through them, or you guys can stop me and ask, or wait till the end. So the Voter Choice Act is pretty much going to be allowing our voters to have more ways and more days to vote within Kings County. And it's a very common model now in California. It's not a state law per se, but it was passed in 2016, Senate Bill 450. It was passed in 2016, and out of 58 counties, 28 counties have so far transitioned to the Voter Choice Act. Kings County, along with about 12 others, transitioned for this cycle. The most significant change to this process is the number of days that are allowed to vote. So for the June 7th statewide direct primary, we'll be opening up our polling locations starting Memorial Weekend, May 28th. 2 of those locations are going to be within the county. One is the Government Center, and the second location is the Office of Education here in the city of Lemoore. Those offices or those locations will be open 28 days prior to the election. Here's the number of registered voters we have in Kings County as of April 12th, 2022. There's 20,648 Democrats, 24,032 Republicans, 12,379 no party preference, and 4,500, just over 4,500 that are registered as other. For Lemoore, as of today, there's 12,809 registered voters in the city of Lemoore alone. So here are some statistics in regards to the voters that came out and voted in the last 3 elections. The March 20 primary, you see that the number of registered voters was 55,000. We're up to 61,879. That was the number that was captured for the 2021 gubernatorial recall election. In the November 2020 election was one of the most, I would say, active elections in Kings County. We broke records, every single record you can think of. And that was with the 73.86% turnout, which is pretty significant for a county our size. You see that the September 2021 recall election only had 50% turnout. Most likely the primaries follow each other. We're expecting to have just, I'm making a prediction between 50 to 53% for the June 7th primary. Here are the numbers that we have in regards to registered voters. One of the biggest concerns from electors or voters is the number of people that are getting ballots by mail. So state law just passed within the last bill, Assembly Bill 37 just passed, which requires my office to send a ballot to every active registered voter, regardless whether they want to sign up as a permanent vote by mail voter or not. Prior to that, we had a huge number of people that were already registered permanent vote by mail, 79.95%, 80% of our registered voters were already permanent vote by mail. There are 20% still remains intact. However, we still send out a ballot to those folks, whether they want a ballot by mail or not. It's not uncommon for voters to come to our office or to the vote centers and turn in their vote by mail ballot, and then we'll print them one right on the spot and they can cast their vote. They can do that if they like. It's personal choice. Following slide talks about why a new election model. You can see that traditional election model, you only get 1 day of voting. Compared to the Voter Choice Act, you get 10 days early voting. You got to have 1 vote center for every 10,000 registered voters. We're at 61, which means they round down, not up. I was taught to round up, but they go down. So we're at 61,000. That means we need 7 centers. 2 centers will open 10 days prior to the election, and 4 centers will open 4 days or 3 days prior to the election. So on June 4th, we'll open another 5 additional vote centers for a total of 7 to be open on, which is election day, June 7th. The other advantage to having a VCA is that you can go vote anywhere. If you're a resident of Lemoore, if you're in Hanford at Costco and you're not going to make it back by 8 p.m. on election day, you can go vote in Hanford. If you're in Hanford, you can go to Avenel and vote in Avenel. You can go Corcoran and vote in Corcoran. You can go anywhere. So our technology gives us the advantage of printing what we call ballot on demand, and it gives you the correct ballot type that you have. With traditional polling locations, you were stuck to that precinct. So if you went and voted out of your precinct, you were voting conditional. A provisional ballot, I'm sorry. So the provisional ballot would then be brought back to our office and we would process that ballot as provisional, meaning you only get to vote for those contests that you're eligible to vote. With the VCA model, you get to vote for all the contests because we're going to give you a correct ballot type right on the spot. So it's a huge advantage. Each one of our vote centers they're equipped with the technology that we need to print the ballots and the ability to print the correct ballot right on the spot. It also allows our office to process ballots, meaning handle the ballots 29 days prior to the election. 29 days prior to the election is Monday, May 9th, this coming Monday. So ballots that didn't go out Monday, we'll start getting ballots Tuesday, guaranteed. And we can start processing those ballots. We tabulate them, we don't release the numbers until June 7th at 8 p.m., which is legally when you can release numbers. But it gives us time to do the work at the back end. So when election day comes around, our first release, meaning our first numbers that are released, are pretty accurate numbers because that counts all the ballots that we received through the 10 or 11 days. So those are some of the reasons why I asked the board to allow me to transition the county of Kings into a VCA county, Voter Choice Act county, and get away from the traditional 1 single day of voting. It gives the voters the opportunity to vote during the weekends, during holidays, and again, it gives more opportunity. Yes, sir.
So maybe if you have in your presentation, I'll just wait, but do you have a breakdown on those 10 days of early voting in terms of what your percentages are?
No, we don't. This is our first model. This is the first time we deployed this model.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
For Kings County, this is so for the September recall and for the November 2020, we deployed a model called VCA Light model. And that was only 4 days of voting, Saturday, Sunday, Monday, and Tuesday. That model is not a law. That model was allowed by the Secretary of State's office in November because of COVID. And we didn't want to have a congregated people in one single location at a single time. And then for the September 2021 recall election, it was such a compressed period of calendar that we had to work with. We weren't going to have time to be able to find 30 plus locations to do one single day of voting. So they allowed it again. Since then, we transitioned to a full-blown VCA, which is 10 days prior to the election. But myself and a bunch of other counties are very interested in that data because I can bet a body part that the data is not going to support 11 days of voting.
Well, yeah, so you don't have any data on 4 days.
No, 4 days, the data that we just missed.
Okay,
So
all right.
that would be the data. So if you look at the March 2020 election, there was 55,000 registered voters, just over. You had a 38% turnout. And if you look, and that was a traditional voting day. That was one single day of voting.
Yeah.
If you look at the September 2021 election, you went to 50% turnout. And I'll be honest with you guys, I'm not sure if the turnout in the recall was, if it was good at 50% because of, people wanted the governor out of office. And I can't speak for the November 2020 general election because you can tell the 74% turnout is very unusual, very, very high number for Kings County. And again, I'm not sure if it was just the political arena was so magnified with the folks that were on the ballot in the November general election that people came on and voted. So here's how it works. You're going to have your ballots 29 days prior to the election. There's 3 ways you can drop it off. You can do it by mail. U.S. Postal Service was the #1 source of delivery of ballots in my office for the last 3 elections. Second one was ballot drop boxes. We added, we went from 2 drop boxes in March 2020 to now 11 drop boxes throughout Kings County for the June 7, 2022 primary election. Lemoore's got 3 boxes, and we got them throughout Kings County. We got them in Armona, we got them in Kettleman City, Avenel, Corcoran, Home Gardens, and throughout Hanford as well. 11 boxes we have throughout. Or if you choose to vote in person, you can come into any one of our vote centers and vote in person. You can return your vote by mail ballot if you want to use that, and we'll print you a ballot right on the spot as well. Here's by mail. Those are our official ballot drop boxes. For a ballot drop box to be official, it's got to say official on it, and it's got to have the insignia of the logo of the County of Kings. And that's what our boxes, exactly what they look like. With the exception, if you see where it says push to open, right below that, we put in red and white, or red letters, please make sure you sign your envelope. And I ask that you guys share that with your family, friends, enemies, and neighbors, that make sure you sign your ballot, because if you don't, we're going to send it back to you, asking you to please sign and return that information to us, correct signatures. We verify each signature goes through us. And those ballot drop boxes will be open on Monday, effective Monday, and we'll start collecting ballots every 48 hours. We'll hit every single ballot drop box and collect those ballots and bring them back to the office. Those are vote centers. Again, vote center starts 10 days prior to election. 2 of them will open up 10 days prior to the election. And then the remaining 5 will open the Saturday prior to June 7th, which is Saturday, June 4th. You can get a replacement ballot. You can go register to vote up to election day. We have, ADA compliant equipment. We also have any person that wishes to have any type of assistance in regards to languages. We have them at every one of our vote centers as well. Here's a layout of what a vote center looks like. This is Sierra Pacific Gym. So we try to create a layout to where there's a flow of people that come in and out. We try not to get congested, and we try to send as much equipment as possible to make sure that we're able to handle an influx of voters showing up. The accessibility devices that we have, those are the ones that we deploy to each one of our vote centers. We offer Tagalog facsimile ballots, and we offer Spanish and English ballots for folks that come in. There's 2 codes that are governed by the Secretary of State Office on the election code. One of them is language 203, the other one was 14601. Language 203 are mandatory requirements, which is Spanish and English. 14601 is selective material that's supposed to be provided in Tagalog. We mainly send those to the city of Lemoore because we have a higher population, a Filipino population here. Here are the dates. These are important dates right here. May 9th, ballots go out. May 23rd is the last date to register by mail or online before the June 7th election. This does not mean that you cannot register up to election day. What that means is that if you don't register by May 23rd, you are not going to get a ballot by mail. So we do 2 pools. We did 1 already. We got 2 extra ones. So people move during that in between pools. We capture them the second round of release of ballots. But the May 23rd date simply means that you have to be registered by that day in order for you to get a ballot by mail. If you don't, you have to vote conditional. And we'll take that ballot back into our office, and we process that during the canvass period, which is the 30 days after the election. May 28th, as mentioned, 2 centers will open up. That includes the weekends and holidays, and that's from 9 to 5. Saturday, June 4th, we open up the remaining 5 centers, again from 9 to 5, and then from 7 a.m. to 8 p.m. on Tuesday, election day. And the last day to get our ballot to be postmarked, they have to be postmarked by June 7th, but the last day to process those ballots is June 14th. So we can still get ballots after the election, so as long as they're postmarked by June 7, 2022. Those are the hours of operations. Here are the locations for the 2 11-day centers. One of them is Office of Education on D Street. The second one is the Kings County Government Center. Here are the remaining 5 locations: Avenel Rec Department, Corcoran Rec, Kings County Government Center will have a second location, Longfield Center in South Hanford, Sierra Pacific, Northwest Hanford, and Lemoore Civic building next to us. Here are the locations for our ballot drop boxes. And I want to say thank you for allowing us to place a ballot at the rec center. That is the 3rd more used ballot box in Kings County. Number 1 is our government center. Number 2 is Hanford High School on Greenfield Boulevard. And the 3rd one is the rec center. It's used heavily. And we added another box in Lemoore at the Masonic Lodge. So up to 11 boxes we have throughout Kings County. And here is ways to get involved. You can submit feedback to my office in regards to the election plan, which is posted on our website. It's been approved by the Secretary of State's office as well. You can call our office if you guys want to join, or if you know anyone who would like to join our language accessibility committees or the voters accessibility committees. They can just contact our office and we can invite them to our next meetings. We have to have those meetings in place, or those groups in place, in order to continue with the VCA model. VCA model requires that we update our plan every 2 years. This being our first year, it got approved and we're ready to rock and roll and move forward with it. And that is our new and improved I voted sticker for Kings County. So that's what people will get when they come out and vote. And that's pretty much the PowerPoint. And I'm available to answer any questions, not just regarding the PowerPoint, but other questions you guys may have.
I have a quick question.
Yes, ma'am.
In one of your slides, it said that it's 79.9 something, almost 80% of people get permanent vote by mail ballots, correct?
Yeah.
Then you also said that you count those up to the 14th. Like you have up to if they mail them on the 7th, you have up to the 14th to count them, correct?
Yeah.
How do we call the election so quickly when there could be potentially so many vote by mail
Great
ballots
question.
out there?
Great question. So what we do is we do what is called the election night reporting, we do one single release at 8 o'clock, about 8:10. And then every 2 hours thereafter, we do releases as we process the ballots. But we don't stop counting ballots till maybe 15, 20 days after the election. So you truly don't have a real number until I submit what is called statement of vote to the Board of Supervisors. That statement of vote is not presented to the board for them to reject the numbers. Simply is a formality that is signed by me and sent to the Secretary of State's office. So until that happens, I would call an official election. A lot of folks use the remaining voters. You can have a race, say for, City of Hanford, District D. If you have 5,000 voters to that district and 4,000 voted already, and there's a wide margin, they can call the election that way. So that's a good question. How do you call an election when there's so many ballots still outstanding? The number of ballots that are remaining between the election day and the 14 days is minimal. You're talking maybe a couple hundred. So, and that includes ballots that we're holding on to because the signature, either one was missing or two, it was not matching what our records have. So another thing you guys want to keep in mind, and again, I ask that you share this with your friends, family, it's that if you have not updated your signature in the last 3 years, I strongly suggest you do that. Our signatures change all the time. Mine's not the same that it was 8 years ago. So if your signature don't match, we're going to send you a notice saying your signature didn't match. We need you to fill out this paperwork for us to send it back.
If your signature doesn't match, you do send something out?
Yes.
Because that's one of I'm always wondering, I'm like, did I sign it right? And I'm like, I don't know if it counted or if it didn't count. If
Yeah.
it didn't count, you would have sent me something, right?
Yes.
Okay.
And not only that, but you can call our office if you all, we had a lot of calls, especially in the recall election. A lot of calls, people wanting making sure the ballot was counted. There's also a system in place called Ballot Tracks. You can sign up at Where's My Ballot, and it sends you alerts through your phone of the status of your ballot as well. So, or you can just call our office 852-4401, and it's not difficult for us to check for you. But yeah, there's a process that we have in place to send out a notice to those voters that their signature was not matching or was completely missing. And that is the reason why we put in red letters, decal on those boxes, make sure you sign your ballot. It's amazing the number of ballots that come unsigned.
So how do you verify those signatures? Electronically or is it human?
Human eyes, every single one of them.
How accurate are you?
I'm sorry?
How accurate are you?
Well, I think you have to, if I have a staff of 5 people, myself including 6. So for example, let's say that one of the staff members challenges the signature because they don't feel that it's matching. Then they call a second person, and then that second person either agrees or disagrees with that unmatched signature. My staff goes to training to do signature verification, a comparison. So they're trained to do that. Can I stand here and say it's 100%? No, I can't. Because I'm sure, I'm sure that some are questionable.
Yeah.
But if you think about it, it's a lot of contact they have to do, to verify each one of the signatures. And what we do is we run the signature, we bring it up, we want them into the system. System captures the number of the ballot and it pulls up the record of that voter. So we compare it to any document that we have that's been captured from previous elections, from your driver's license. We use that as well to compare your signature. So some folks have multiple documents that we can use, others only have one.
So how about voter harvesting?
I'm sorry?
Voter harvesting?
Ballot harvesting is
Yeah.
totally legal. It's totally legal to do
So if I
that.
showed up with 55 ballots and they're all different signatures.
Yep. Yep.
You would count them all?
Yep. We cannot deny a ballot. If you show up with a truckload full of them, we're going to say, back it up, we unload it. We can't deny a ballot. So if someone drops off 100 ballots,
But you can deny mine with it if the signature's not right. If you don't.
we won't deny it. We're going to challenge your signature saying that, hey, if you sign this and it matches, then we can accept it. So it's not denying your vote. It's just saying your signature does not match, or you failed to sign the envelope. So that's a big difference. Ballot harvesting is a common practice that is, here, I'm going to speak for Kings County, guys. Here in Kings County, we've had both political parties that are very active do the same thing. So in 2020 general election, we had an issue with folks, political party, putting out ballot boxes that were not official. So I just called them directly and said, hey, look, that's not within the code, just remove them. And they did. They were not offended by it, you know, they took them out. But if they go collect ballots, so as long as that ballot is turned into our office within 3 days, that's what the code says. And as long as they're not making money from dropping off those ballots to us, they can collect signatures. There's a box on the top left corner of that envelope that needs to be completed by the voter, allowing that person to drop off the ballot for them.
Right.
But if that information is missing, we intercept the ballot. We won't deny a ballot. We can't deny a vote. I mean, we've had 2020 was not it was pretty heated election. You know, we have folks showing up, doing what we call electioneering, promoting a specific candidate or specific party. That's not allowed within 100 feet of any vote center or of any ballot drop box. So we got to tell them, hey, you either take off what you're wearing or come back when you're not wearing it. So it was not it wasn't a lot of it, but there's people that are not too friendly to my staff or me during that election cycle.
You think voter ID would be a better process?
I'm sorry?
You think having a voter ID would be a better process?
Well, it will stop the recording. I can give you my personal opinion of that. I think that it's a valid question that is asked by many folks, like just yourself, sir. I've received that question hundreds of times. You know, it's a process that I think would expedite the registration and the processing of the vote for sure at a vote center. It would take away the need for my staff or the poll workers to input that information into the poll pads because we no longer have rosters. Everything's electronic. So it's an iPad that we deploy to each one of the centers. Those iPads communicate with each other. So if you go to the Civic and you vote and then you rush over to Longfield Center in Hanford, we know already you voted. So they communicate. If you were to show up and provide us your ID, we'll take it from you. And now we do is swipe it in our device and it populates everything for us.
Right.
So we don't have to input the information.
Right.
So it makes it easier for us if you have an ID. We can't ask for an ID. It's illegal to ask for an ID. So do I see that happening? You're in California, So I know there's been other states, other jurisdictions that have attempted. I think you have to look at from other perspectives. What if folks can't get an ID? So, they make it a law, we'll
I
enforce it in
guess the
Kings County.
follow-up question is, why couldn't they get it?
There's various reasons so
15.
why they wouldn't be able to. I know hardships could be one of them, but if it was to become a law, I can assure you that it's going to be enforced in Kings County for sure.
Thank
So,
you.
there's a lot of processes and steps that we have within the county or within my department that we have to implement that I don't agree with. But I'm not there to flex the process to benefit my belief. I'm there to enforce what's in the code. And if folks don't like it, then you call you lawmaker, or you can run for office, go to Congress and make a change. But that's a very valid question. And I'm not surprised you're asking that. So it's called,
You get it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
but when people show up and they hand our,
whatever, you gotta have.
we train our poll workers. Somebody hands you the ID, take it.
Yeah.
Take it and just wipe it, and man, it makes it quick.
Yeah, you don't have to make a judgment on it, right?
We have the technology to implement something like that, obviously we have it already, it's just a
Sure.
matter of making it a law.
Okay,
California.
Oh, I'm sorry about that.
Yes, sir.
You guys have any further questions? No? I'm gonna go ahead and open it to the public and see if anyone from the public would like to ask a question.
Sure.
The public does have to come up to the podium, state their name and their address.
You have to sing a song too.
Susie Banuelos, 892 Cedar Lane. It was partially answered already. My question was going to be about the validating the signatures. I've been a registered voter since I was 18, so more than 25 years voting. But also the DMV, my signature is quite different on an electronic keypad, or than it was when I was 18 and we didn't have electronic anything, including cell phones. So that was one of my questions. And my second question is, when I renew my driver's license and we have that whole, do you want to register to vote issue? I'm already registered. I don't like them messing with it because I had an issue about 3 election cycles ago too, where something got changed. I got changed to absentee, and I'm old fashioned. I vote in person every time since I was 18. So my other question was, when I say no, I don't want to register to vote, when I renew, you guys don't mess with that, correct?
No, so we get the information from DMV, and I can tell you exactly what happened in their case. It happened a lot. If you go to DMV and they're asking you if you want to register and you mark no, you got to be really careful on what you're reading, because it says no party preference. And a lot of people, we had a number of voters come to my office not happy because their political party changed. Well, we showed them proof of the affidavit they completed at DMV. They changed it. They simply didn't read the question. Do you want to register to vote? They saw a no and they marked no. Well, they indicated no party preference instead of not registering to vote. So the party changed. And in order to change your party, you have to register again. And they were not happy, but that's what happened. And it could have been you, ma'am, that could be my office, because we've had quite a few. So.
What if I just do nothing? I stay
No, you do.
registered to vote,
Yeah.
right?
You
I
stay,
say,
yeah.
No, I don't want to register.
Right. Yeah.
Okay.
You don't want to, yeah. And we had a big issue with DMV. I mean, it went back and forth, who are you gonna blame? It was a done deal and it's passed, but the best thing to do is, make sure you submit a new registration card when either one, you move, or 2, you want to change political party, or if your signature is 3 years or older. I would highly recommend you do that. And I could take any more questions, whatever questions you want to ask, I'm here. And if you are not willing to ask it now, please call my office. I'll be more than happy to meet with you guys independently or talk about it over the phone. I'm good with that.
Okay, well, thank you, Mr. Villa. That was a lot of information right there. So appreciate it.
Well, you're welcome. You're certainly welcome, and make sure you guys come on and vote June 7th. Looking forward to it, and we'll be working with the city in November for our seats that we have open. So thank you so much. You guys have a pleasant evening.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Okay, also, that's gonna take us into our closed session, and items have been set aside for the city council to meet in closed session to discuss matters pursuant to government code section 54956.9 D4. City attorney will provide an oral report regarding the closed session at the beginning of the next regular city council meeting. 1, government code section 54956.9. Conference with legal counsel, anticipated litigation, initiation of litigation pursuant to paragraph 4 subdivision D of section 54956.9. Deciding whether to initiate litigation, 1 case. 2, government code section 54956.9. Conference with legal counsel, exposure to litigation, significant exposure to litigation pursuant to paragraph 2 or 3 of subdivision D of section 54956.9, 1 case. Number 3, government code section 54956.9 D1. Conference with legal counsel, existing litigation in re of Sean M. Martin versus the Lemoore Police Department. Kings County Superior Court case number 22 CV 0181. Number 4, government code section 54957.6, conference with labor negotiator agencies, designated representatives, Miss Mary Lerner and city attorney Mary Lerner, the city attorney, and Michelle Spear, the assistant city manager, employee organizations, general association, and service employees. With that, we are in closed session. Okay. All right, welcome, everybody. Thank you for joining us at Lemoore City Council Chambers, 429 C Street, May 3rd, 2022. Please silence all electronic devices as a courtesy of those in attendance. Thank you very much. And first thing we're going to do is the invocation by Pastor John. And after his wonderful speech he's going to give to us, we're going to stay standing. We're going to do the Pledge of Allegiance right over here. The flag's up here. Thank you.
Let's go to the Lord. Dear Heavenly Father, Lord, we just thank you for an opportunity to be together tonight. We ask your blessing upon this meeting. We thank you for the leadership in this city, Lord, and just pray that you would give them wisdom and that they would continue to seek you in the decisions they make for the betterment of this city, Lord. We ask your continued protection upon the city, continue to use our first responders and just guard them, protect them, and give them wisdom as well as they serve our city each and every day. And also be with our armed forces, integral part of what our city is about. Pray that you'd give them courage and protect them, guard them, use them, be with their families, Lord. And just all this, we always seek you, and we thank you for your blessing and just the wonderful city that you've given us. Pray that we would be wise in how we lead it, Lord. In your name we pray these things. Amen.
Ready? Salute. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you, Pastor John.
Thank you.
You know what, that guy right there, he gave me a compliment once upon a time. You remember it?
No, I gave you so many compliments.
Well, the one that stuck the most was, I remember you told me that I was a good public speaker. And I think you were wrong then, and I still think you're wrong now. You remember that? You do. How about that? Okay, I'm sorry. Roll call.
Councilmember Orth,
Here.
Councilmember Gornick,
Here.
Councilmember Cheney,
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Matthews,
Here.
Mayor Lyons.
Here.
Thank you.
Okay, everybody's here. That's good. Let's see. No, see, I'm not allowed to.
Oh.
No.
Mm-mm.
Agendas, approval, additions and or deletions. Seeing none, okay. Closed session. Public, I'm sorry, yeah, closed session report.
Nothing to report, Mayor and Council.
Okay, public comment. Public comment will be in accordance with the attached policy. This time is reserved for the members of the audience to address the city council on items of interest that are not on the agenda and are within the subject matter jurisdiction of the council. It is recommended that speakers limit their comments to 3 minutes each, and it is requested that no comments be made during this period on items on the agenda. The council is prohibited by law from taking any action on matters discussed that are not on the agenda. Prior to the addressing of the council, any handouts for council will be provided to the city clerk for distribution to the council and appropriate staff. The public will have an opportunity to comment on items on the agenda once the item has been called and the mayor opens the item to the public. So at that time, is there any public comment? It's Ben Willis. I know you're here for something. So you get to come up to the mic, state your name and your address.
My name is Susie Banuelos. I'm a resident of Lemoore. I'm here tonight, actually on behalf of Lemoore BMX and Framework Racing. Our lovely president is addressing Hanford City Council tonight, so I'm here trying to do her justice. I just wanted to update you guys over about our state race weekend that we had during the Pizza Festival. Over the event Thursday, Friday, and Saturday night, we had multiple riders and families. We had roughly 3,000 attendees at our event. 797 racers, individual racers that attended the Lemoore event alone. And they stayed, some from Thursday, Friday, Saturday, some camped, many families stayed in town at hotels. We had racers from as far north as Oregon. We had racers from Nevada, and the majority of them came from up and down California. I don't know if anyone's familiar with BMX, but California being the largest state, we're divided into two territories, northern and southern. We fall in northern. And so we, being centrally located, have the unique ability to draw racers from both parts of the state. So it was a resounding success. We had no incidents, one injury, and we wanted to thank you guys. We did refer people to the pizza festival, and I believe many took us up on that, and we appreciate the signs that you guys put out on Idaho, and that's basically it. Thank you for support.
Well, thank you, Mr. Thank you. Is there any other public comment? No? Do you have anything online? No. Okay. That'll take us to the ceremonial presentations, and I don't think there is any. Yes, no, nope. Takes us into the department and city manager reports.
Good evening, Mayor and council members. We'll start out tonight with Chief Kendall.
Good evening, Mayor and council members. Last year, if you remember, on Mother's Day, we received several complaints from our local businesses here in town in regards to the street vendors who had set up selling flowers, potentially taking business out of the brick and mortar stores here in town. So this year, we will be stopping and checking that those street vendors do in fact have a permit through the city. So at any time this week, they can go to the city and get a permit. That way that they're all above board on that aspect. The only other thing is the Kings County Peace Officer Memorial. That's May 18th at 10 at the Government Center. Thank you.
Thank you, Chief.
Thank you.
Okay, council, I have a couple updates. So the first one is I've had multiple meetings now with the governing board for California and USA Olympic Wrestling and Boxing. Met with them this week at the city here, and we brought NAS Lemoore on board and some representatives from West Hills College. So we're working diligently to put together a scope and hopefully bring a training facility to Lemoore. They currently rent out Selland Arena in Fresno, and these would be weekend events. So still working through some of the details, but we've got some very interested parties, and I look forward to bringing that to you at a very future date. Additionally, tomorrow or Friday, I'll be attending a Sigma impact meeting that's being hosted up in Visalia at the hotel there in Visalia. So I'll be out of the office in the morning for that meeting. And then we experienced low water pressure again this morning. I'm sure many of our residents felt it. I know we did at my place. But several weeks ago, we had 2 failures back-to-back days, and it was mechanical issues with motors and the electrical. We repaired some motors. The incident today was 2 of the brand new motors. The motors are fine, but the VFDs faulted in the cabinets they overheated. So we've got some new air conditioners on order coming in to keep that thing cool. So that won't happen, because if we're tripping them now and it's not even 100 degrees. So the electricians and the programmers are scheduled to be out tomorrow to double check and do some more work out there, but we are aware of it. I do apologize. It's happened right in the morning every time. So matter of fact, my daughter was yelling at me this morning. She was stuck in the shower full of soap. So felt it too. Our apologies. The guys jumped on it. I think we had pressure back up by 7:15. So it was short, but nonetheless, we're working on it, and I do apologize for the inconvenience it may have caused any of our residents this morning. Thank you.
Okay. That's going to take us to section 3, consent calendar. Items considered routine in nature are placed on the consent calendar. They will be considered and voted upon in one vote as one item, unless a council member or a member of the public requests individual consideration. 3-1, approval of the minutes, regular meeting, April 19th, 2022. 3-2, approval of the budget amendment for Public Works Professional Contract Services. 3-3, approval of the budget amendment for PFMD Zone 5. 3-4, approval of the budget amendment and bid award for project 5013, the Bush Street overlay, Terra West Construction. So with that being said, council, would you guys like to, would anybody like to remove either 3-1 through 3-4? Seeing none, I'm going to open it to the public. Would any member of the public like to pull any of the items on the consent calendar? Okay, none. Back to council. I'm going to look for a motion to approve consent calendar.
So moved.
Second.
Mr. Orth and Mr. Gornick. Mr. Orth,
Aye.
Mr. Gornick,
Aye.
Mr. Cheney. Aye. Ms. Matthews.
Aye.
I say yes. Consent calendar passes, which takes us into our public hearing, section 4. 4-1, public hearing. We're gonna do these one at a time, yeah. Project development agreement and cannabis regulatory permit between the city of Lemoore and Pacific Plant Science Inc. for cannabis operations. Mr. Olson.
So good evening, Mayor and council members. So before us tonight is another development agreement, project development agreement between the city of Lemoore and Pacific Plant Sciences. We also have completed their background, so they're applying for their regulatory permits tonight. Due to our ordinance, we had to publicly notice this for a public hearing 10 days prior. We've done that. We do have representation from Pacific Plant Sciences here. So if you have any questions for them, they are in the audience. They first approached the city, man, it's probably been at least 2 years, almost 3 years. They were one of the first people in when we passed our cannabis ordinance. And they bought some exchange property, which included the McCann's and Son truck and tractor building along the 198, which is appropriately zoned for cannabis and the uses as defined in the project development agreement. They also bought 25 acres down across the street from Burroughs, that 25 acres down there. And I think the plan for that is some future retail stuff, but for now they're focusing on McCann's. I was really expecting them to be one of the first businesses in, but it took us a little bit to get here, but nevertheless, we are here now. So pretty standard. They'll be doing, as far as cultivation, it'll be indoor cultivation. Processing, they'll be pulling the, actually harvesting the plants inside there. I believe they're going to do some manufacturing, some edibles, and then distribution and potentially some non-storefront delivery out of there. They have provided a pro forma over the next few years. So I don't like to get too deep into the financials in the beginning, but I could say in the first years, I've asked for conservative numbers, and it is enough to help fund some positions and whatnot in the city. So this is just kind of ongoing. Again, they have met all the requirements as laid out in the ordinance. They passed their backgrounds through the PD. And we're just here tonight looking for, after the completion of the public hearing, we're looking for council to approve the project development agreement and the regulatory permits between the city of Lemoore and Pacific Plant Sciences.
Any questions for council? Comments, concerns? None? Yeah. So with that, we'll open it to the public for public hearing. Would any members of the public like to come up and say something? Say where they're from, where they live, their name for the third time.
I feel like that's harassment from the Mr. Mayor.
Oh, I'm sorry. That was
Who's also my council member.
I was just pointing out a fact. That's all.
Again, my name hasn't changed. I'm Susie Banuelos. Unless my boys kick me out because I didn't cook dinner tonight, I still live at 892 Cedar Lane. And this is just a question. Now I'm speaking just as a resident of Lemoore, but it kind of ties into my son's hobby, which is BMX, which is out. We have to go by that area, kind of, which where all the industry seems to be is out near our BMX track. I do have a question wondering about signage, which, by the way, I supported the city council when they started bringing all of the CBD and dispensaries and all of that into town. I was convinced, actually, I was against it and I became convinced sitting through the process. However, I do have some questions about, will there be signage? And it's an indoor, so that gives me hope that the smell will be contained, because even in town where I live, when it's Croptober or whatever they call, it's a hideous smell. And also, my question is this gonna further impact our track and our land and the kids' activity that we have out there? And I guess this is more for Nathan, and I don't know if this is I'm sorry, Mr. City Manager, I don't know if this is the appropriate place to ask that, but as a citizen, I'm concerned that we keep growing, so to speak, areas where we have primarily a youth sport and a lease, and we don't have a firm plan to relocate.
So this is a conversation I've had with Ms.
Banuelos.
Benuelos,
Susie, you can
sorry.
call me Susie on the
Okay.
record for
And,
here and
well-
ever forward. You can call me Susie.
And the one concern is that this is actually off topic, so I probably shouldn't address, because we're talking specifically the BMX track, and that's not what we're here for tonight. I'd be happy to meet you right after this meeting, or we can talk tomorrow. But what we talked about last time, that is in process. I'm working on something for you. Okay, and I've
Well,
already
you do
talked to
that,
Derek.
Hear that in the public.
And as far as
He's working on
signage, what did you mean by signage? Like,
Well,
what
I
kind of
mean,
signage are you looking for?
Be in relation to the kids traveling and us being surrounded by the smell where we're currently at. Is it gonna be like, hey, get high here? Or-
No, none of that.
I'm just.
Like
just
it
a
looks now on the
question. I'm
outside,
just-
that is how it'll continue to look.
Awesome. And I'm not necessarily against it anywhere. I'm just
Okay.
really emphatic that we get something done for
And
our
and the
kids.
property across the street is supposed to be being disked and cleaned up tomorrow.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Anyone else for the public hearing? No, nobody online? Okay. Yeah, we're gonna close the public hearing and we'll bring it back to council. So council, we're looking for a motion to accept the project development agreement and the regulatory permit. That's, oh, there it is.
Should I call that typo?
I'll make
Good.
the motion.
Okay, so Mrs. Matthews makes a motion.
To approve it,
Yes.
I'll second that.
And Mr. Orth is my second. So Ms. Matthews, how do you vote?
Yes.
Yes. Mr. Orth, how do you vote?
Yes.
Mr. Gornick,
All right.
Mr. Cheney,
No.
and I vote aye as well. So 4-1 passes. 4-2, public hearing, resolution 2022-17, certifying that the environmental impact report, resolution 2022-18, initiating a sphere of influence amendment and annexation 2020-01, and approving general plan amendment. Now, this is supposed to say 2020-03, but it says a lot more than that. First readings, ordinances 2025 and 2022-06, approving zone map amendment, pre-zoning number 2020-03, and adopting planned unit development number 2020-02, resolution 2022-19, approving tentative subdivision map track 3932 and major site plan review number 2020-02 in accordance with the findings and conditions.
Wow.
Ugh,
Take a breath.
Mr. Brandt.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor and Council. Steve Brandt, City Planner. As you read, and thank you for correcting the typo in the agenda for the record. This item is a package of permits that we have been calling the Lacey Ranch development. It's a request by the Assimi Group developers out of the Fresno area for a relatively, well, large for Lemoore residential subdivision. So going through the project, it would include a general plan amendment, which would allow development of the site, a new residential land use designations, as well as revision to the circulation element of the general plan. And I'll show you some maps describing those changes. It will include pre-zoning the site to be consistent with the new land use designations. There would be an annexation, initiation, and increase in the city's sphere of influence. And then the tentative map would create 547 single-family residential lots, as well as 2 future multifamily sites that could hold up to at least 204 multifamily residential units. The planned unit development, or the PUD, would modify the minimum lot sizes of the single-family lots, as well as the building setbacks. And then the site plan itself, besides the single and multifamily units, includes 3 parks, a park pond, and a trail. So this is the site location. It is on the east side of Lemoore Avenue and south of Lacey Boulevard. That's about 156 acres, or roughly a quarter section of land. And then this shows how the site plan fits into the site and the relationship with the existing parts of the city. So the general plan land use designations, the map on the right is the current general plan land use designations. The map on the left would be what is proposed. So you can see the area that's in white inside the project boundary. It doesn't have any general plan designation. So this area was not planned for development originally in the general plan. And we'll get to this a little bit more later, but that is why the environmental impact report is required, the highest level of environmental review document, because we did not review this site for development back in 2008 when we adopted the general plan. So you can see there's a mix of uses, mostly single family residential, but also medium and high density residential for the multifamily sites, park site, and the park pond site. All right. The circulation changes, the red streets show arterials, and the pink are collector streets. So there's some minor changes to the road alignments to accommodate the project. It seems to work out, and we would anticipate in the future, when we do the next general plan update, that all of Lacey Boulevard will probably be designated an arterial, but for now, we're just going to designate the area adjacent to the project site. So then this is the site plan. You can see the lots. There's really 3 sizes of lots, and you can make them out by the red, blue, and the green lots. So what we call small, medium, and or compact, medium, and large lots. So there'd be different types of housing built for different markets. The park is centrally located in the development. The park would be constructed with the first phase of development. And then 2 smaller parks, which would be constructed when those neighborhoods develop around them. There's a storm basin down in the southwest that we're working with the developer on the concept of having a dog park there. So it would be it'd be like a 2-tiered ponding basin so that the lower tier would fill up with water first, and then the dog park area would not fill up with water except during a larger storm event. But that's something, we still need to work out the engineering details, but we think that there's a good possibility that can work. And then there's a trail system that you can see running east-west and then south to the southerly park. That's there for two reasons. One for pedestrian access connecting the parks, but also because there's a ditch on the site, and the ditch will be undergrounded and relocated, and it'll run underneath the trail. So as for the planned unit development, that's the part of the project that addresses the size of the lots and the building setbacks that would be required on these lots. So as I said, there's compact, medium, and estate lots, red, blue, and green. And you can see what's required by the zoning ordinance, and then what the applicant's proposing, and then the staff recommendation for the PUD, which is roughly the same as the applicant proposed setbacks. One of the other things that was added was that that southerly tier of lots that backs up to existing development would be designated as one-story home only lots, so that there wouldn't be a two-story home built right next to an existing house that's been there for a while. As I said, this project was reviewed through an environmental impact report. That report's in your packet. This was necessary, like I said, because one half of the site was not evaluated in the general plan. The EIR was prepared by Crawford and Bowen Planning and was reviewed, peer reviewed by QK and by the city attorney's office prior to the public release. We did have a public release of 45 days in accordance with the CEQA guidelines for people to comment. The comments that we received, we made formal written responses to, and that was put into the final EIR. And then the final findings of the EIR were written out, as well as what we call overriding considerations, which we'll describe in a moment. But I've got Travis Crawford here, one of the authors of the EIR, and I'm going to have him talk a little bit about the EIR, since we haven't had an EIR here for a while, and make sure you understand what you're looking at and how that process all worked for the benefit of the public.
Good evening, council members. Again, my name is Travis Crawford. I'm an environmental planner with Crawford and Bowen Planning. Appreciate the opportunity to work with the city on this project. I'm going to try to summarize the thousands of pages of the EIR here in about 10 minutes or so. So please bear with me. As Steve discussed, the EIR evaluated the construction of up to 825 residential units. I know that what Steve showed was 751 units, that it's actually been reduced from what was analyzed in the EIR. So the EIR actually overanalyzes what the project ended up being. So it's 825 residential units, mix of single and multi-family units. The unit sizes and types are broken down on the screen. 164 compact lots at 4,500 square feet, 310 medium lots at 6,500 square feet, 73 estate lots at 9,500 square feet, 145 multifamily at 20 units per acre, and 59 multifamily at 12 per acre. Steve mentioned 3 parks totaling 7.46 acres, in addition to a trail area, a 4.3 acre ponding basin, which was designed to accommodate flow from the development. And the project will be required to connect to other city services for sewer, water, and storm drain. So that's the summary of the project, and I'll now go over the CEQA process. So the first step was the preparation of an initial study and notice of preparation of an EIR. That document basically announces that the city is preparing an environmental impact report. And it also is an opportunity to scope out some of the more minor environmental topics. So that document was circulated for public review in August 2020 for a 30-day period. Following that, we commenced with preparation of the EIR. So to support the EIR, we had a series of technical studies prepared, which I'll go over here quickly. An ag conversion study evaluated the type and quality of farmland that is proposed to be converted. An air quality greenhouse gas study took a look at the air district's guidelines and analyzed air emissions associated with the construction operation of the project. A biological survey was conducted on the site and a report was prepared. So there were no protected species that were found during the surveys. However, because there's potential for nesting birds in the areas, particularly Swainson's hawk, Fish and Wildlife requires that certain measures be implemented on a project. So I'll discuss mitigation in a couple of slides from now. A cultural resources survey and report was also prepared. No cultural historic resources were identified during the survey. However, there are protection measures that are included in case during ground disturbing activities something is discovered. In addition, a local Native American tribe representative will be on site during some construction activities. We also prepared a water supply assessment. This took a look at the project's water demands compared to the city's long-term available supplies. The assessment determined that the city did have adequate water for the project. And I'll discuss water mitigation in a few slides from now. We also conducted a phase 1 environmental assessment that looked at hazards and hazardous materials on the site. A noise study took a look at construction and operation noise. And then finally, the traffic study took a look at all the transportation impacts that the project would have. The traffic study analyzed a few scenarios, including a phased build-out approach and what the project or what the transportation situation would look like in year 2042. So based on that, there is one intersection that will require a signalization. Okay, so on the screen are all of the topics that were analyzed under CEQA. Of these 20 topics, there were 10 that were determined to require mitigation in order to make a finding of less than significant. The other 10 topics were determined to either have no impact or less than significant impact and didn't require mitigation. So the areas requiring mitigation, biology, there's some restrictions for construction timing and avoidance measure having to do with nesting birds. The applicant is required to consult with Fish and Wildlife regarding potential loss of foraging habitat on the land for Swainson's hawk, and that has to do with alfalfa that has been farmed on the site. And then a requirement for evaluation of undergrounding the ditch, the irrigation canal under the trail. For cultural, I mentioned a tribal monitor on site during construction, and there's also provisions in case anything is discovered during construction. Under geology, there's a requirement to prepare a geotechnical evaluation and a stormwater prevention plan. Under hazardous materials, there's provisions for handling of previous wells on site and best management practice. Hydrology, there's a requirement for the applicant to offer his existing water shares to the city and also payment of water service fees for the new development. Under noise, there are provisions to limit construction noise. Public services, there's payment of impact fees for fire, police, and schools. Transportation, the intersection of Liberty Drive and Hanford Armona Road will be signalized as a result of this project. The applicant will also have to obtain encroachment permits and develop a traffic control plan during construction. And as far as the development itself, the project is required to install bike lanes, some traffic calming features, and bike parking spaces. Under tribal cultural resources, I mentioned the tribal monitor during construction and the provisions for discovery of anything during construction. And finally, utilities, service systems, mitigation for this is payment of impact fees for wastewater. So the EIR also analyzed cumulative impacts of the project. That cumulative impacts basically looks at project impacts and adds them to other development that is anticipated to occur in the city. and the county. This was based partially on the city's general plan. You know, what's the city going to look like if the general plan is built out to its full capacity? So that's kind of the methodology of what we look at when we're looking at cumulative impacts. What's going to be the impact if we add all this stuff together? And the EIR also requires an evaluation of alternatives. This EIR, we took a look at the no project alternative, which means the site remains in ag production. We also looked at an alternate site of roughly the same size and a reduced project site. So although the no project and the reduced project alternatives would reduce the environmental impacts, those alternatives didn't fully meet the objectives of the project. Therefore, the project as proposed is the preferred alternative. So based on evaluation of the EIR, there were 4 impact areas that resulted in significant unavoidable impacts, which would require the statement of overriding considerations. They were for agriculture, for loss of farmland, biology, and this was under cumulative level only. There was no biological resources on site, but because the project would be removing potential foraging habitat for Swainson's hawk, when you combine that with other habitat that's being lost, the finding is it's a significant unavoidable impact. Under hydrology, again, this is cumulative only. It was determined that the city has adequate water to serve the project, but when taken into account, overdraft in the area, the finding in the EIR is a significant unavoidable impact. And under transportation, for vehicle miles traveled, the project couldn't meet the threshold. I think it was 9 point something miles per capita, and the threshold is 8.16 miles per capita, and I think the project ended up being 9 miles per capita or something like that. So we had to implement VMT, vehicle miles traveled mitigation, things like bike lanes and bike parking and stuff like that. But after implementation of all those measures, we still couldn't reduce it to the threshold. So the EIR had to find it's significant unavoidable. Okay. So during the 45-day review period of the EIR, the city received 6 comment letters. I'll just go over them quickly. Lemoore Naval Air Station, a simple letter just requested a change of address for their contact person. Department of Conservation, they provided some guidelines and regulations pertaining to a previous oil well that was drilled on the site back in the 60s. I think they drilled down 9,000 feet and never discovered oil, never found oil or gas, so they just capped it. The Air District requested some additional information about the air modeling that we use, so we provided that to them. Department of Conservation, they requested potential mitigation for loss of farmland through agriculture easements or payment of fees. The Air District submitted a second letter just with their standard guidance and regulations pertaining to the project. And finally, Fish and Wildlife requested an additional construction buffer distance for Swainson's hawk if during the pre-construction surveys, Swainson's hawk are found. So the EIR provided responses to each of these comment letters. In addition, the final EIR also provided some minor technical changes that were made to the draft EIR text. This is referred to as the errata section of the final. And these revisions were made within the scope of the original draft EIR and didn't rise to the level of requiring recirculation of the draft EIR. All right, so to sum it up, the draft EIR was circulated in January 2022 for a review period of 45 days, sent to local and state agencies, surrounding landowners and other interested parties. Notices were published in the newspaper and on the city's website. The final EIR and responses to comments was prepared, and that takes us to tonight, where the project is being considered by a city council. So the next step would be for discussion and public comment, and I will be here to answer any questions you have. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, sir. Would anyone on council like to comment? Have any questions? Yeah.
Good evening.
Hi,
How you doing?
good. Let me finish one more thing I want to say, and then I'll be happy to answer questions.
Oh, sorry.
Great.
No problem. I just want to get back to Marissa's got a couple more slides here. So I wanted Travis to be here to explain the EIR for the benefit of you and for everyone in the audience and that's listening. The real purpose of an EIR is to inform you of what's really happening and what the environmental consequences of the project would be. But it's also to show you that there are mitigation measures that we can put in place and then to put those mitigation measures onto as conditions for the project. For the impacts that Travis stated that are still deemed significant in the document that's called the findings and statement of overriding considerations, we've listed considerations that you can make to say, you're basically saying, we recognize that there's significant impacts. Here are some reasons why we want to approve the project anyways. That's basically what an overriding consideration is. So those are listed there, and I'll just summarize what they state, that the project reflects the stated vision, goals, and objectives of the city of Lemoore. It ensures orderly development patterns. It will provide a variety of housing opportunities with a range of densities, styles, and sizes. It will maximize and broaden the city's sales tax base by providing local and regional tax generating uses. The project will improve and maximize economic viability. And the project will provide a residential development that assists the city in meeting its general plan and housing element requirements and objectives. So that's the process that we go through with an EIR, that if you find that there are significant impacts, you need to make overriding considerations. And so we have those in the document. And that'll be the first resolution on the list of resolutions. So the Planning Commission got this same presentation on April 11th. They held a public hearing. And after the public hearing, they voted 6-0 to recommend approval of the project with the findings and conditions that are in all of the resolutions and ordinances that are before you. So the staff recommendation is consistent with the Planning Commission's recommendation to recommend approval of the project. There are 3 resolutions and 2 ordinances that are required to be approved in order to approve the entire project. The first one that needs to be approved is Resolution 2022-17, which certifies the EIR. That one has to be approved before you can take any other action. And basically certifying the EIR is saying that yes, the city of Lemoore has followed CEQA in accordance with the state law. And so that's why we're showing you all the things that we did, talking about the review periods that we went through and the responses to comments. So that is all. The first resolution is the certification. So I'm open for any questions you've got, and both now and after the public hearing.
I'll go first. Since I don't have a question, I have a comment.
Okay.
The Lacey Ranch, the whole thing from the first time I heard about it 2 years ago, almost 3 years ago, it's gotten better and better along its way. And as of right now, I'm really, I don't know, I'm not proud, I guess, because I didn't put anything into it, but it's good to see the evolution of it. It's come a long ways. It's got a lot involved in it. It's got a lot for, everybody. It's kind of checks all the boxes and not just some. So I just wanted to say that, everyone that's worked on this, good job. I'm a fan of it. That's all I got to say.
Couple comments. So if this were to be approved, what do you think the anticipated start date for the project would
The
be?
developer is in the audience. I'm sure you could ask him that question.
Okay, let's ask him.
Let's
ask him.
We'll do that when the public hearing's open, but I don't want to speculate for him.
Okay. You want to get up there and say something? No? Yeah.
Okay, let's go ahead and open the public hearing then.
Okay.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, members of the council. My name is Jeff Roberts. I'm speaking on behalf of the Assumi Group. Our business address is 1396 West Herndon Avenue in the city of Fresno. And we're not only speaking as the applicant here, but we're the owner of the property and have been for several years. Raina Reyes is with me in the audience here this evening. And before I get into the body of my presentation, I'll try and answer Councilmember Gornick's question if I could, or if I could build that into another part. Would that be appropriate?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay.
Good. I
Thank
got
you.
questions all of this. When you're ready, I'll answer. Good.
So, Mr. Mayor, members of the council, you need to know that I first came to Lemoore a little over 3 years ago and first met with your staff before we were owners of this property. I met with Judy Hallwell, who was a past staff member, and I can tell you we had a very good conversation. We subsequently purchased the property and we worked with your staff, and I'm going to name your staff with your indulgence to file all our applications, get everything in the door, and start the consideration of what's here before you this evening. So we're pleased to be here, obviously. We would like to publicly thank your staff for all helping us move this project forward during probably what's been the toughest 3 years that we could have picked to try and process a big project in. But Christy Bailey, Frank Rivera, I mentioned Judy Hallwell, Steve Brandt, of course, has been integral, Jeff Cowart, Amanda Champion, Brendan Reeder, who was here earlier this evening, Travis Crawford and his partner, Emily Bowen, and of course, your city manager, Nathan Olson. I want to thank everybody for helping us get here tonight. I put some graphics around the room that are all contained in your staff report. These are basically graphics that show details or conceptual details of the parks that we would like to install in the project. And I won't go into details unless there's questions, but they're all in your staff report. So for the record, Mr. Mayor, I'd like to state that we do concur with the recommendation of your staff, with the unanimous recommendation of your planning commission that was made on April 11th of this year, and is evidenced by resolution number 2022-04, which is in your staff report. Additionally, I'd like to state for the record that we do agree with the 15 findings that are recommended in one of those resolutions. I think it's 2022-04. That was the PC. There's 35 mitigation measures, and Travis Crawford mentioned some of those. I'll state that we do concur with all 35 of those, and they're in the EIR document. There are also 31 conditions of approval, which are in resolution number 2022-19. For the record, we do concur with those conditions of approval. There are 4 findings required for 2022-06, the PUD ordinance bill. And then there's 4 more findings for the pre-zoning ordinance bill, 2022-05. Again, we concur with all those. As I know you understand, you've heard about this project before. Staff has done a great job explaining it here tonight. It's a complex project. Yeah, but what we tried to do was provide for a variety of housing opportunities within the city of Lemoore, and also contain within the boundaries of the project all the open space that would be necessary to satisfy your city requirements, which is a very strong requirement. But we wanted to do it inside our borders if possible. We think we've done a good job in outlining that. We also think that these new state housing policies you hear about, SB 330 and SB 9 and things like that, we think our project will help your city satisfy those requirements. But in order to meet these goals, we had to file a lot of different applications. Steve Brandt has mentioned what those are. Travis has mentioned them. A couple other ones I just want to make sure that you're aware of. We've had to apply for cancellation of the Williamson Act on this property, which is an old agreement that was done some years ago. And then, of course, the environmental impact report, which I should say that you should be happy we didn't print it here because it's almost 2,000 pages long. It's a big, big document. I'm not going to go over everything your staff said unless there's questions. We think we've got a great mix of different residential properties. We've got compact lots. About 20% of the residential project site is compact lots. We've got estate-sized lots. That's about another 20% of the area that is devoted to those estate lots. And then about 60% of the single family area is the medium density lots, which average about 6,500 square feet. There's also two multifamily areas staff has talked about. One is for a higher density at about 20 to the acre. The other is at a 12 to the acre. Staff mentioned a buffer along the our southern edge and what is the northern edge of the city limits today. Quite frankly, we can't take full credit for that idea. We got that credit here in this room, or we got the idea here in this room at a previous hearing where there was an issue with a project. And we thought with a project to this side and everything to our south is a single story. It's pretty easy to put that kind of restriction on now. So we did that before the Planning Commission, and that was the part of the approval process. We've got several types of open spaces, a trail, which staff described, it's both east, west, and north, south, and a good portion of it has a relocated and undergrounded canal below it, and that leaves a nice wide spot to have a trail on top of it. There's a park we call Trailhead Park, which is shown over here on the left. There's a pocket park, which would be part of that document or part of that graphic back there. And then we've taken a crack at putting a design in a basin, as staff described it, 2-level basin. So we might hopefully end up with a dog park. And then the larger park is centrally located, and it's close to 6 acres in size. Again, be happy to talk about these if needed. Now, Mr. Mayor and members of the council, the public outreach process, while normal for a project of this scale, was made very difficult by the pandemic. But we did try and get the word out, and here's how we did that. In 2019, after we acquired the property, we had a public information meeting. It's pretty well attended, 35 or 40 people, and it was at the school just south of our site. There was a notice of preparation made public in 2020. There was a scoping session in September of 2020. We did make public updates here at both the commission and the council from this podium. The EIR public comment period, as Travis stated, started in January this year and was open through March. There were 111 public notices went out to folks in the neighborhood. The Lacey Ranch project has been on the city's website for quite a while, both the notice of preparation and the EIR. There was newspaper notices. I have sent letters to the individual owners that are south of the property, and we've met with school districts about this project. At this point in time, we know of no opposition to the project. We've heard nothing but support for it. The environmental impact report, staff's done a good job talking about that. I don't think I'm going to retread that but the consulting firm of Crawford and Bowen has done that. We appreciate their effort here tonight, and I've already made a statement about the mitigation measures, and they've talked about the unavoidable adverse impacts and the override that's required. There is I think it's item number 15, condition number 15 talks about conditions of approval. There is a condition of approval that talks about future fees that might be required. And I know your staff has been working on a process here for probably the past year. And Frank and I have gotten to know each other really well talking about that process. But we do realize there's a citywide effort to look at the fee structure. Obviously, if we're fortunate enough to be approved, our project is going to have to pay those fees. And if they go up, we are subject to the fees like everyone else. So we acknowledge that here publicly. Mr. Mayor and members of the council, I'd like to personally say it's been working with the Lemoore staff has been a satisfying and a rather pleasant experience. I think you live up to your motto that's online to be very professional and service oriented. We appreciate that. And even through the pandemic, the project kept moving forward. It may have seemed slow, but when you look back, a project of this scale, this is actually very quick for a project to move through a major process like this. So in closing, we'd respectfully request that you certify the environmental impact report that's before you here this evening. And adopt the resolutions. I think there's 3 resolutions and 2 ordinance bills that our staff has mentioned. And I'd be happy to answer any questions. And I think I'll answer the first question right now. So we've still got a couple more steps. If we're fortunate enough to gain approval tonight, we've got to wait out what's called the CEQA appeal period, which is a 30-day appeal period after recordation of the notice of determination. And then we are heading toward LAFCO for annexation of the site. If all goes well, that'll occur in late June of this year. I can tell you that we are already putting together numbers to look at doing the first final map that would occur within the project. And our goal is to move as quickly as possible and identify different builders for each component. As you may be aware, we've been talking with 3 different builders. And I can tell you there will be more interest if we obviously get this project annexed to the city. And so we're going to work as hard as we can on that effort until we hopefully are successful in June.
Yeah. So you anticipate 2022 would be, you might be able to launch that.
Typically, final maps, when you do a final map, you have to do improvement plans. And that's the lengthy process. And we have some major sewer work to do.
Mm-hmm.
We have to tie in with the sewer over at, Frank, you can correct me, but it seems like it's Glendale and Liberty, okay? Yeah, there's a big lift station over there that either has to be modified or we have to replace. But we've got a long way to run the sewer. And then we have to identify and design the storm drain system, which actually feeds the other way. It goes to the east to the Lemoore Canal for the northern portion of the project. So we've got 2 major infrastructure issues, and improvement plans for roads and that sort of thing are going to take 6 months or so.
Well, one of the questions I was going to ask you had to do with the Lacey Boulevard.
Mhm.
You know, and it appears like the main entrance into the project is right there on Lacey, not at the corner, but
Up at the north end there.
yeah.
Mhm.
So is that, when we do the annexation, is that upon us to make that? My concern is the right and left-hand turns into the project.
Well, so the typically the way annexations work is that the cities are asked to take both sides of the street.
Yeah.
So the right-of-way widening will come, a lot of it will come off the south side, our side of the road, but some will most likely come off the north.
Okay.
Any decel lanes into the project are going to be on our side if you're
Yeah.
heading east.
That's just a lot of automobiles going out and coming in
Mhm.
at that Lacey Boulevard. But you also, I noticed in the EIR, you have a signal identified for
We do.
that corner.
We have
Yeah.
to pay for a signal.
Right.
Remind me, staff, it's at Liberty and Hanford are.
Right,
Okay.
right, okay. So a couple other points. Number one, I want to thank you for being persistent with us and moving the project along. And
Thank you.
I did hear about the fact that you were interviewing different contractors for different aspects of the project. And I think that's a smart way to go. I really, really do.
Thank you.
And I congratulate the staff for all their work and persistence over the last 3 years to get this project moving. You identified you talked a little bit about the estate lots, and you talked about the sizes. What do you anticipate the square footage of the homes? In all the documents, I didn't see anything with respect to the average square footage of the homes, let's say on an estate lot or a small lot. You know, what do you see there?
I didn't mention that, and I should have. All the home plans and the elevations have to come back to your planning commission for approval.
Okay.
Because we don't have those here this evening, but they all have to come back. But in the compact lots, you could expect to see 1,500 to 2,200 square foot lots, square foot homes, pardon me. The medium size, you would bump that up maybe 18 to 26, 2,800. And then estate size, you know, they're very large. Some of them are very large. You can see 3,500 foot lots
Okay.
very easily.
And all this is one story.
No, it's 1 and 2 story. The
One and
only
2 story.
restriction on 1 story is,
That south wall, that south border.
The south border.
yeah, I just happen to have this graph here.
Good.
Along this light blue here.
That's the one
Those
that's
are the
just
only ones that are
a single
stretched
story.
out to 2 story.
Gotcha. Okay. You didn't do anything on the other,
We
east.
did not.
You said, okay. And so, you know, there's been a lot written over the last, because of the pandemic, in terms of how people are working now differently. Have you thought about, or with respect to the designs and the kind of broadband connectivity you're going to have and things of that?
I can't answer the broadband. I can tell you for sure the designs that every builder today is looking at a much more robust home office type of situation than they ever have. I'm sure we're going to see in the next few years some very creative designs that are either being used or will be designed for that. And that this will be a very attractive place for home offices, we think.
Well, maybe the broadband question is more for Steve than you. Where would we connect off of Steve for this project?
Neither of us know.
Be Comcast, probably.
Yeah.
So what you're talking about, internet?
Comcast.
Comcast probably, or AT&T, they both
I mean,
probably would bring in.
What kind of fiber do we have out in that area? Do we have any? Hold it in that area?
I have no idea.
We don't know. We haven't
Okay,
gotten into that actual hard design.
okay. Is that something you'd bring before the planning commission? Think, or?
I would think they would ask the same questions you've asked about the housing design. If we had home offices and the designs, I
Okay.
think they'd say, how are you going to
Yeah,
make those work?
because you want to have something robust enough to
Yeah.
handle it. You don't want to
Yeah.
have people waiting for things to download. Yeah,
We have
right.
done other projects where we had
Okay.
a very, very strong setup with the Comcast, one of our master plan projects.
Well, good. Congratulations. Thank you.
Thank
That's
you
all my
very much.
questions.
I have one question.
Mhm.
You guys did an awesome job on designing the parks. They look very nice. Parking, I see only really parking on the main park, on the west side of that main park.
So
Do we-
it's shown
Am I
on the
missing?
east side as well.
I
In the
know it
street.
would, but
Yeah.
it's gonna be our
We've
question.
tried to take advantage of the street parking and actually widen the street a little bit to have more on-site parking.
Okay,
We did not create a parking lot inside the design. Again, this is a conceptual design.
no, I
It's gonna be-
figured that. I just,
Yeah.
my only really one question was the parking. I mean, that's one of our biggest concerns we get from, it's an awesome development. I just, was thinking about parking. I mean,
Sure.
should people walk? Of course, they probably should walk. I should walk every day, but
What these parks are, the smaller parks are more designed for neighborhood use. The big one obviously be attractive to anyone in the city, I would think.
and that baseball field, is that Conception or is that,
It's conceptual, but we did that partially to show you there is room to put a full-size baseball field there, as well as basketball, pickleball, tot lots and that sort of thing.
Good.
thank you.
Anyone from the public?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Yep, so we're gonna go ahead and close. Oh, I'm sorry.
Good evening, Mayor and City Council. That's Jennifer Solis, Redwood Lane, and I just wanted to echo Stuart Lyons' words and sentiments. I am very excited about this project, from the parks, from the setup, the diversity in the home sizes and the lots. I just think it's a great idea for Lemoore. And as I talk to people, I too have only heard positive feedback, which hasn't always been the case for all the projects you guys work on. And so I know the staff are working hard. And so I just appreciate you, and I'm just excited for a project that we can all rally around. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. No more public hearing? Okay, so we're gonna go ahead and close public hearing on 4-2. Bring it back to council. Council, we are looking for. I'm getting there.
While you're getting there, I just want to echo what everybody else was saying, the work that was put into this development. I hope that anybody else that's considering looking at bringing the development into Lemoore could take some lessons from the developer and the time that they've taken to make a good product for them, not only themselves, but for our city. So I thank you guys, and I thank city staff for all your hard work.
So now that it's up there. I had this already. Dadgummit, I was gonna beat her to it. But if I'm correct, we have to adopt resolution number 2022-17, certifying the environmental impact report before we do anything else, correct?
Yes, that is
So
correct.
that is the motion, the first motion I'm looking for.
Motion to approve and adopt resolution number 2022-7.
Thanks for saying it all, Mr. Orth. Okay, I need a
Second.
second. Mrs. Matthews. So Mr. Orth, how do you vote?
Yes.
Yes. How do you vote, Mrs. Matthews?
Aye.
Mr. Gornick
Aye.
and Mr. Cheney? Aye. I say yes too. So that one passes. Now we have to go on to adopt resolution number 2022-18, initiating a sphere of influence amendment and annexation 2020-01 and approving general plan amendment 2020-03. Now, can we do
All those in one.
all those
Those
next
are-
three bullets?
Those are,
And
So-
ordinance number 2025 and all, and then ordinance number 2006. And if we do those three, that'll allow us to do the resolution on 2022-19, right?
So correct, you could do those four remaining items together, just have, I recommend someone, if you want to approve those remaining four bullet points, you would need to read them verbatim because we have to waive the first reading on the ordinance for each of those ordinances. But
Okay.
you could, so we have a clear record. I would just recommend someone read the next four bullet points if that's how council wants to proceed.
Okay, so go ahead, someone read those. and
I will
say-
make a motion to adopt resolution number 2022-18, initiating a sphere of influence amendment and annexation number 2020-01 and approving general plan amendment 2020-03. And introduce, right? Okay, and introduce ordinance number 2022-05, approving zoning map amendment, pre-zoning number 2020-03, and waive the first reading. And introduce ordinance number 2022-06, approving planned unit development number 2020-02, and waive the first reading. And adopt resolution number 2022-19, approving tentative subdivision map tract 932 and major site plan review number 2020-02 in accordance with the findings and conditions in the resolution.
Nice motion. I'm looking for a second.
Second.
Mr. Orth. So, Ms. Matthews, how do you vote?
Yes.
Mr. Orth, how do you vote?
Aye.
Mr. Gornick, how do you vote?
Yes.
Mr. Cheney? Aye. How about I as well? So all that is done. Which takes us into 4-3. Public hearing, resolution 2022-20, approving general plan amendment number 2022-01. Mr. Brandt again, in person.
okay, so this project, as you just approved, included a request of LAFCO to amend their sphere of influence so that the site could be annexed. You also, if you will recall, approved a request to amend the sphere of influence for what we called the Casaka annexation on the south side of the city. That was back in November, I believe. And so it was right after that council meeting that Nathan and I and Christy went and met with LAFCO staff to talk about how we would process the sphere amendment requests. And the response we got was that, a couple of responses. One was that they wanted to see all of the sphere of influence amendments made as one request. They didn't want piecemeal things where they had to go to LAFCO a number of times and do this one and then do that one and do that one. I don't think Lemoore's sphere of influence has been amended in maybe 15 years. So it's kind of a big thing and they wanted to do it all at once. So we said, okay, we could do that. Something else that they said was that they would be open to the idea of amending the sphere all the way to Hanford-Armona Road, not just for this project that you just approved, but all the way to Highway 41, as long as the land that would be added into the sphere was part of the city's general plan. Well, and if we can go to the next slide. Oh, that's me, sorry. I can do the next slide. So this area that's dashed is outside of the general plan area, but it's south of Lacey Boulevard. And so you can see the map on the left shows the current general plan, and then the map on the right would show what we're proposing. So what we're proposing to do is designate that land with the land use designation agriculture, which doesn't change anything, doesn't require any environmental review because we're not changing the land use. We're saying that these people can keep doing exactly what they've always been doing. It's just now we're officially designating them in Lemoore's general plan where we didn't do it before. So it's kind of a technical thing, but what it does is it allows us to then go to LAFCO and say, now we'd like you to put all of this land in the sphere of influence. And since it's kind of been anticipated that the next general plan update will probably push the city north, having that land already in the sphere of influence is going to be one step that we don't have to do in the future. So it was something that LAFCO staff proposed. Nathan and I we looked at each other afterwards and we're like, yeah, let's do it, because we didn't expect that we'd be able to do that. So this is a staff generated general plan amendment to do this and to designate this land agriculture. We did talk to one of the property owners there, explained what was going on, and it seemed like after we talked to them, they understood what was happening. They thought first something was maybe changing. Really, it's not making a change that they're going to notice or that will affect their ability to do what they're doing on their property already. So open for any questions.
You know, we had that discussion a couple meetings ago about even looking south. You know, when they were first talking about putting that slaughterhouse and everything in there on the southwest, about expanding south to kind of protect ourselves a little bit as well.
And I think our request, because we put that was the request, the comprehensive sphere request was in that municipal services review that we included in your packet in the last meeting. It did include the land that the slaughterhouse was proposed on. So that would then also be in the sphere as well. So this area to the north, that area, and then the Casaka.
So
site.
that would be included then?
Yes.
I think that makes.
But
a
that
lot of
was
sense.
already in our general plan.
General
So
plan,
we
but
didn't
not-
need to bring something.
I got you.
in front of you.
Okay.
And what about 17th Avenue and D Street? Do we talk about that kind of too?
That wasn't in the sphere, right? We have it as far as the sphere, but
That's
don't we have
already
to
in
do
the
another?
sphere, I believe, or well, maybe not the northeast corner, but the other corners are already in the sphere.
Right, but not to the north side, not
Yeah.
next to the
Not-
subdivisions we have up to.
Yeah, not
On the other
in
side of the
front of
canal.
Motor Road and 17th, not that one. I'm talking about 17th and Bush,
Uh-huh.
all the way up 17th towards Hanford Motor Road.
Yeah, so I think that is the sphere line, 17th Avenue.
Okay,
So west would be in, east would be out.
Yeah, it's in there.
yeah, west would be in, east would be out, okay.
Yeah.
I like that. I mean, that'd be good. On it.
So we're gonna.
Okay, so we're gonna go ahead and
Do we need to amend anything or is that
open
something
this
that's-
to
We'll
public
do a public
hearing.
hearing and then you can
Yeah.
vote to approve it. Or
So a public hearing is now open on 4-3.
Good.
If anyone would like to come and say something. Council, you guys have any more further questions on this?
Anybody on the internet? Oh,
Okay, so seeing none, we're gonna go ahead and close public hearing.
Got to finish my presentation. Yeah, so the map on the right, the map on the right answers your question. The blue, the black line shows where the sphere would be
Can you? Yeah.
There you go.
right
There you
there.
go.
So
Okay.
So
Oh.
we're adding the Lacey Ranch area, this general plan amendment, the Casaka area, and the county's
Mhm.
CUP area.
I'll wait till he gets done. We'll reopen public hearing. So just
I'm
make an
good.
announcement.
I
I'm
am
done.
I am done.
Oh, you're done now?
I'm done now.
Okay, well, let's go ahead and reopen public hearing on this. Would anyone like to come up and say something? Online? No takers, going once, going twice, sold. So public hearing is now closed again.
Chrissy doesn't wanna say
And
anything.
so you guys, I'm looking for a motion. And it's
Motion to accept resolution 2022-20
I think that's it, and approving general
and approve general
plan
plan
2022-01.
That's it.
So that's your motion, huh? Okay, Mr. Orth, I got your motion down. I'm looking for a second.
Second.
Mr. Gornick. Is that the correct motion?
That is.
Sounded
The
good.
resolution is
Yeah.
actually approving the general plan amendment number 2022.
Okay, so Mr. Orth, how do you vote?
Aye.
Mr. Gornick?
Aye.
Mr. Cheney? Aye. Mrs. Matthews?
Yes.
I vote aye as well. So
Thank you.
4-3 is approved and passed. And that takes us into the fun part. The brief city council reports and requests. And we'll go ahead and start with Miss Matthews tonight.
I'm actually going to be brief today.
That's, hey, ladies go
Yeah.
first.
I did attend the memorial overpass dedication for Officer Diaz. It was a very nice event. So if you haven't checked out the sign that is there for the memorial, drive by and check it out. Also attended the pizza festival, all 3 days, lots of people, all of those days, very well attended. Looking forward to next year being bigger and better. Also attended Waste Management's annual report, which was a virtual meeting. So that was informational. Also attended Cal Recycle's SB 1383 about procurement. However, I was having sound issues and didn't get to hear it all, so now I have to wait for them to post that to hear it again, but anybody can go on the website on Cal Recycle and get that same information. So if you're curious about SB 1383 and all of that, just check that out. Some upcoming events, the downtown Cinco de Mayo event, obviously on the 5th of May, is going to be downtown. They're going to have a live band, outdoor dining, and spirits, craft vendors, and the King's Cultural dancers will be performing at 6 o'clock, and that event is from 5 to 9 p.m. And I also there's Coffee with the Cop. I don't have all of the information. I just know that it starts at 9 a.m. On May, give me a second. May 17th at 9 a.m. Check the fire, not the fire department. That's not gonna get you anywhere. Check the police department website for the place. I think I missed that. It's at West Hills. Thank you, sir. I also attended the Western Regional Vietnam Veterans Memorial Wall Foundation's dedication ceremony of No One Left Behind on the 30th. That's at the Dinuba Memorial Hall. If anybody has a chance to go out and check that out, it is a 50% replica of the Vietnam Wall in DC. So it's pretty spectacular. They haven't finished the landscaping yet, but the wall is complete. So it was definitely somewhere to take a drive and go check out. And with that, I think I'm done.
Oh, okay. That was brief.
It was.
Mr. Cheney.
I've got nothing more to say. I just thank all city employees for a great job. Everybody throughout the city. So that's it.
Right on. Thank you, Mr. Cheney. Mr. Gornick.
Just again, want to compliment the city staff for hanging in there with all these little difficult issues we've had over the last months or so, and but also persisting with our folks at Granville on that project. I think it's a real nice mix of housing, and I think it'll be a real nice addition to the city of Livonia. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Gornick. Mr. Ward?
I also too attended the pizza festival all 3 days. It was a great turnout. And I would like to take this opportunity to thank numerous staff members that helped get us the command center for the police department, from Nathan, from the chief, from Dave Brown, Sheila giving us all the trash cans that we didn't know we had for 10 years. And then sitting in that trailer for hours cleaning them so we can pass out clean trash cans to all city civilians, or not civilian,
Residents.
I couldn't think. It was a blast. We had fun. We didn't crash the command center, so that was a good thing. We didn't wreck it. Thank Ray and his guys they erected a flagpole out in front of our chambers. It's awesome. It's great to see that. Everyone come out to the Cinco de Mayo and let's open this city back up so we can do good. And that's it. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Ward. Yeah, I would just like to thank Mr. Ecker for coming down and doing his his prayer. It's always good. Ms. Banuelos, thank you, Ms. Banuelos. 3 times or 4? I mean, I think you got a new record. And yeah, the pizza festival, it was good. It was good to get back out, see things, you know.
You were there?
Didn't you see me? I think you did.
I didn't see you.
Well, I didn't see you, so I don't know. I don't know what to say to that.
I did.
The Lemoore Volunteer Fire Department, we had our golf tournament and we had a great turnout. It was a good thing. I don't golf.
I was there. Where were you?
I was there.
Where?
Trust me. I was there doing fire calls while everybody was out there doing that. I was here in the
Okay.
town making sure everyone was safe.
Oh,
Where were
Just
you?
checking. I was at the
Yeah,
golf tournament.
Exactly. So,
You want me to put fires out?
yeah,
Okay.
just in case. So did you golf?
Oh, no.
Why not?
Nobody wanted me on their team.
Oh, yeah, no one wanted me on their team either. Yeah, golf reminds me of Easter. Every time I have to hit it, I gotta go.
I have a
find it.
motion to adjourn.
Second.
Second, third.
Okay, so we're adjourned.